Morning. Joining me and Chloe on our walk this morning. Just wanted to bring you out, and something came to mind that I found rather interesting. So I have a funny little addiction. I don't know if it'd be an addiction. It's a funny little habit that I have of watching reaction videos online to people watching movies, people doing different things, reactions, you know. Sometimes they're really interesting. Unhook you a bit. There you go. Free Chloe. Anyway, and my favorite movie of all time, as of right now that I can think of, besides Jurassic Park, it's up there too. Between these two, Jurassic Park and Princess Bride. So a long time ago, I fell in love with the movie Princess Bride, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. It's probably something that anybody can enjoy. Pretty perfectly made movie. Let me deal with this business. So the Princess Bride, it's I call it the perfectly made movie because it seems to have most of the elements people want in a romantic comedy, adventure, fantasy type comedy movie, you know. Anyway, and I say perfect because very well executed. Most people agree, and I've seen it about 1 million times. But I love to watch new people experience it. People experience it for the first time and see their reaction, their thoughts on it. And so I watch those reaction videos where in watching them, I'm pretty much watching the movie over again. And I already know how it's going to end. I already know how it's going to go. But even though I know how it's going to go and how it's going to end, I still like watching the whole movie over and watching somebody else experience what I've experienced in watching the movie. And so, why is that important? I think about how, you know, I was talking about how this life is kind of like a video game. But it's also kind of like a movie in the sense that we don't really get to choose the direction it goes. Like in a video game, they already have the path you need to follow. You have to go through this process, and you know, you can take side quests. You can play the whole game side questing and get distracted from the main mission. And that's kind of like life too. But in the movies, I was thinking about how I already know how it's going to go, but I still want to experience the movie process play out, the storyline, the lore. And so I was thinking about how in life we don't know how it's going to go, but I believe that it's going to end out, and it may not be in a single lifetime. I don't know how that all goes, but our individual experience may not go the way that we initially plan, but I believe it goes the way that we need it to create the story that we are trying to make. And that all we're doing here is experiencing the growth, the creation of this epic story. The story's already going to turn out perfect and epic, but in the movie, not everything along the way goes perfectly for them, but it's a perfect movie, and it's a perfect viewing experience, even though at any given moment you're like, I don't want this to happen. You know, oh man, what's going to happen next? Oh no, I'm afraid about this. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want this to happen. I don't want her to, be captured or whatever. You're thinking and feeling these things along the way. You get a little involved, invested, but even though even if you've watched it and you know how it's going to go, you still hope for, or you're still like, but what if they, maybe they should change it so. But no, in the end, it's perfect. And like I said, it didn't play out perfectly. So in life isn't along the way having every moment feel like a perfect moment, but collectively at the end, our life is going to be a perfect life experience that afterwards we'll look back, I believe, and just think, man, that was pretty perfect. It didn't feel perfect along the way every moment, but when I look back on it, it was a perfect experience, storyline. So just like with movies, you can't always have the expectation that it's going to feel perfect and that you understand what's happening yet, because we don't, the first time watching the movie, you don't know how it's going to play out, how the storyline goes. But if we can trust that our life is a story or a video game, movie type situation where it will go well, it'll go beautifully and perfectly in its right, then we don't have to sweat the small stuff. We just sit back and enjoy the experience. Float down that river, see the sights, hit the rapids, and know that you're going to come out okay on the other side. And just living life like that feels more magical, like an experience watching a movie or playing a game. Just think if you were watching a movie and you're trying to direct the movie at the same time. You're sitting back to enjoy it, but then you pull out a video game controller to try to control the outcome of the movie. And anyone that watches movies know that movies aren't interactive like that. That's what video games are. And to some extent, our life is manageable. We can decide a certain path, decide certain actions, but to some extent we have to sit back and just enjoy the ride and let the natural course play out. And I think it's beautiful that way, because then everything's an adventure, everything's a surprise. You think it's going to go this way and then it goes that way. You think it's going to go this way and it goes that way. Hey there, girl. Anyway, watch Princess Bride. You'll know what I'm talking about the movie being just a great movie. But then think about how life at times is more like a movie, and you just sit and enjoy, ride the ride. You can't control it. Sometimes it's a video game where you can make some inputs, but it's still along the same line. So I guess the reason for this message is, or the message here is that I personally like to see the perfection in imperfection of this world experience, because everything feels better when you're not expecting the need to improve things and to have more perfect solutions to stuff, but instead just see and value the perfection that the imperfection brings. Yeah, I'd prefer if this park didn't have certain weeds and that the patches of dirt were full of grass. It seems like it would be more perfect that way. But honestly, when I step back and think about it, I wouldn't. I don't. There's some glass and some trash down in the dirt. It's not perfect, but it's more raw, more real, more visceral, more of a connection that I have because I'm not perfect. So I can see the imperfections in the world and be like, it's like a cozy, at home, realistic. You go on a video game and they try to make things perfect and it just feels too stale. And so they include the realism of the imperfections of our world to make it feel better. In movies, they make mistakes and people die or get hurt, in the storyline, and it's unfortunate, but it makes it feel more real. So why are we trying to avoid the realism of our real life that makes it feel alive. That's how we can feel alive and happy to be alive, is by being happy that it's imperfect in a perfect way. Just like movies sometimes turn out, man, that was a perfect movie. No, the events playing out didn't seem perfect at the time. They seemed unfortunate and frustrating, but overall, it was a perfect experience to have watched that movie. So, just a new perspective. Love you guys. Just wanted to get these thoughts out because it's morning. Beautiful walk time with Chloe. Thanks for joining us. Bye.